Welcome, you all. This is Baron Baptiste. This is a place where we can tell the truth and the truth can be told. Today, we want to talk to you about something and have a conversation, an exploration into the question of who is controlling your mind and who are you letting into your thoughts. David, welcome. What's your take on it?
I think it goes back to the fundamental question of who is in control. And I've heard it said that if you're not in control, then something or someone else will be. And so the question is, can we be honest enough with ourselves to look at our lives and say, I'm not really in control? And I don't think that there are things that we are all in control of. And then there are things that we are all not in control of. And so then it goes to the question is, what is the truth of the situation? What's the real truth? So I looked up the word truth, as I love to do in the dictionary. And it's very simple. Conformity to fact or actuality. That's number one. Number two is reality or actuality. These are great words, by the way. And then the third one is the reality of a situation. So what is the reality of the situation? And then the question is, what is changeable about your situation? And of course, if you know the truth, as the scripture says, that it will set you free. But the question is there a truth deficit in your life? And is that the result of not wanting to face the truth? Because the truth is a hard thing to face. Let's just put it bluntly. Truth is not always what you want to hear. Truth,
especially when it's the truth about yourself.
Exactly.
And who you've been being in your life and what you've been doing.
Yeah.
That goes against the truth, that still small voice in your heart. Your conscience is the voice of God. And when you're not listening to that, and you've not been listening to that inner voice of truth, you end up in a place where now you're taking on or allowing others' thinking, others' thoughts, others' narratives, others' story. And we live in a world right now where, and I don't know if it's right now, it is right now, and probably has been as long as there have been human beings around, where we're almost trained not to believe what we see or reality, actuality, but to actually, what we actually do, instead of being related to what's actual, reality, truth, we relate to these outside forces. And then we allow these outside forces control over our mind, over our thoughts. And we're taking on these outside forces that are completely separate, disintegrated from that inner voice, the conscience, the voice of God.
Yeah. Here's another one from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it is in the category of, and I think this is the one that really matters to most of us anyway, is a transcendent, fundamental, or spiritual reality. And so how much of what it is that we're struggling with in this life seems to be elusive in the sense that we get these moments of intuitive knowing, like something's wrong, you need to pay attention to this area, and then all of a sudden somebody comes and distracts you from it. And that goes back to your question. Who is in control of what's going into your mind? And so if you're not in control of it, then the question is, what is it that is causing you to feel or think or be who you are? Now, and we see a lot of social influencers directing people in one direction or another toward fads and popular things that eventually people do grow out of after the damage has been done. And I guess if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. But at the same time, isn't prevention better than cure? If you start to question who or what is actually in charge of the thinking that's going on in my mind, then you step back and you become objective for a moment. And then you realize the like you just were talking about, the influences. You start to become aware. And, I remember one time I was sitting in a room, a little tiny room, and I was doing some editing of a lecture. And all of a sudden I hear this word pop into my mind, Kleenex. I thought, and I stopped for a minute, like, where did that word come from? And I started looking around the room. It was just, there were boxes in this room, and there was a little crevice between these boxes, and there was a box of Kleenex back on this counter. My brain picked that out because my brain started getting hungry for some kind of stimulus because I was sitting there editing it for hours after hour. And so what you don't realize is that you have a hungry brain, and that hungry brain is constantly looking for stimulus. And the stimulus could be anything, especially when you get bored and then you start to go into a daydream. And then where does that daydream come from? Where do the random thoughts that you think are random come from? And I would say, just like there is a reservoir of great and deep wisdom and truth, actuality that exists all around us, there's also a reservoir of inauthentic, inactual stuff that's there that can flow right into you if you give an opening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the question, the word that comes up for me right here is access to truth,
Yeah.
to your own conscience, to that intuition, the inner light that can guide you in life. What's the access? And what's in opposition to access? You could say you're living in some story, some narratives, taking on other people's thoughts and thinking, deceptions, lies, or the access is freedom. Let me say it. So there's freedom, but the access is truth. The access to freedom. Know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And so if you don't have control of your mind, and you're allowing other people into your thoughts, other people's thinking, other people's speaking, and everyone's PR campaigning all the time, all these social influencers and the hustle culture and the personal development. You've just got to work harder, try harder, do better, do different, do more. All that you take on, and you go down that trajectory for a period of time. And then you're like, no, this isn't the way, because you've lost control of your own mind. And then your body, the energy you're holding is all pent up, stressed out, anxious, nervous, fearful, resentful. Truth is the access to freedom. And when you come back to freedom within yourself, in that free space, that free inner space, you have a direct line of communication from your conscience, from that inner knowing. And so what is in opposition to freedom? Is a question. It's what is in opposition to freedom?
That's the opposite of what truth is.
That's that ugly truth.
No, it's the opposite of what truth is.
It's the opposite.
Yes.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And then the question is, what is that truth that you need to look at within yourself? What's the truth about yourself that you haven't been telling yourself?
So,
free agency, the ugly thing that you need to look at.
Yeah, free agency gives you this. How can I say it?
It's free agency.
Having choice, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So you and I had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Where I'm still questioning, how much free agency do we have? How much choice do we actually have? But yeah.
You don't need much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the idea is that when it comes to truth, it really has a lot to do with how much of the truth you want and how much you don't want. And that is the free agency part of it. You can choose. If there's a scripture that talks about casting pearl before swine.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth will set you free, but let's say for whatever reason you have trepidation about accepting some truths because they're uncomfortable. And it could be the truth about a job that you're at, or it could be the truth about a relationship you're in. It could be the truth about one of your kids and something you need to look at about the relationship with the child. There's all these truths that challenge us to make a choice about how much of the truth we can handle. And so if we can't handle the truth, why can't we handle the truth? Because there's something there that is in, as you said, opposition to a truth. And then what that does is that changes the actuality of your relationship. So the body of real things, events, and facts, which is what truth is about. And then a transcendent, fundamental, or spiritual reality. And so we are caught between two actual spiritual realities, good and evil. And how much
Yeah.
of good and truth do we actually want? That's all the agency we have, honestly.
Yeah, good. Very good. And one thing is the truth of who you're being in a situation,
Right.
the truth of where you're coming from in a situation or with people, with, yeah, the job you don't like, or the conflict you're having with your kids or with people in your life. There may be truth. And if you look back, who have you been being over years? And you look at, okay, I've been being nasty. I've been being resentful. I've been being malevolent or vengeful. I've been undermining. I've been lying, hiding, cheating, pretending to be someone I'm not. It's like you got to look at who you are, the truth of who you've been in life, and perhaps who you're being on this day, and in relationship to all the happenings in your life, in the world, the truth about who you are in the face of conflict, challenges, difficult relationships and situations. It's, you got to get quiet enough. And the free agency part for comes right here, is like looking, the willingness to look in the mirror and truth, consider truth as the access to freedom within oneself. You got to start telling the truth about yourself and who you've been being. So the inner you transforms, the outer world stays the same, the same people, same landscape, same situations in life, but you've transformed the person who sees those situations and the person who is relating to those situations. From, you have to look at, I'm reactive. Okay, what's driving all that reactivity? And then it comes back to the original question, who's got control of your mind? Is it that resentment you have toward your mom, the resentment you have toward your dad,
Or yourself?
the old lingering clutter, the thing that are bricks in your chest, rocks in your chest, and you're walking through life with all these rocks in your chest, and they're just grinding against each other, creating rock dust. And if you don't confront those things, at the end of life, you just end up with a bunch of rock dust in your chest. And then the regrets of not having lived life truly, lived life freely, fully.
Yeah. Yeah. Truth is a strange word because everybody can have their own truth, which is not
Subjective
necessarily
truth. Yeah, there's my
truth. Yeah.
There's my truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my truth is, it's true. He's a jerk. She's a jerk.
So,
but then there's the truth.
well,
My truth, and then the truth, objective truth.
It goes back to what was put in your mind. In other words, we are all creatures of our environment. We are all the sum total of our experiences. And then beyond that, we're the sum total of a realization or a revelation, as it was talking about, a fundamental spiritual reality. And so this is where it gets very esoteric. But in the scripture, Jesus talked about being born again. Now, this has been really messed up by a lot of religious people because you come into this world and you have a life that conditions you and programs you to be a certain way. And then there's a point in time at which you begin to question, why do I think these things? Why are these thoughts in my mind? And literally you ask, are these actually my thoughts? And then when you come to a conclusion, and let's say a realization or an understanding that a lot, and if not most, if not everything you think has been put into you from some environmental source, source that's not innate, that's not within you.
Yeah, I think Jesus called that the worm that never dieth. From family, generations,
That's
it's
right.
passed on, the narratives, the stories, the outlooks on life, the outlooks towards self. it gets carried on. But yeah, go ahead.
But I ask everybody to think about this idea. Would you like to be reborn, reconfigured? Would you like to have a second chance at a new life that isn't modeled after the old life? That's the question. So then it goes to this deeper idea about the truth that sets you free. What is the truth that sets you free? If you know the truth, whatever it is, in actuality, whatever that truth may be, that truth is, it contains within it keys to unlock you from what contains you now, what has kept you from finding your full potential. What is the truth that's keeping you from finding your true potential? What is the truth that's prohibiting you from moving forward in certain things in life? It could be a self-doubt. It could be somebody programmed you to believe that you weren't capable. It could be that the environment around you told you you can't. You can never succeed unless you do the things that we expect you to do. And so whatever that truth may be,
It's all external. Yeah, that was all taken on.
and the truth
Yeah.
of it contains, the very truth of the problem also contains the actual solution. And that's what's so amazing about truth. It's a twofer, because you identify the problem, and as you identify whatever the problem is, solution arrives there to balance everything out. The solution and the problem are synonymous, believe it or not. And without the problems, we wouldn't seek for solutions. And what is the solution? The solution is a truth, whatever that truth may be, if you're willing to accept it or face it.
Yeah, and take your spankings.
Do whatever. For example, look here.
Yeah.
In the use of the word truth in a sentence, at some point you have to face the simple truth that we failed. Okay, that's the use of truth in a sentence. That's one of the most fundamental things that you can do, is realize where you went wrong. And by the way, just as an example, Elon Musk blows up these billion-dollar starships to figure out what happens when they blow up, or he tries to land them in a strange, odd way to figure out how to do it. You know what I'm saying? We're all going to learn from our mistakes if we can learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
We will be enriched by that learning from our mistakes. But if we don't want to face the fact that we failed or that we're making mistakes, and we want to blame everybody else around us, we blame, we find fault, we put all the responsibility out there with others, and then we go ahead and keep proving that we didn't fail. Yeah.
And that's where the pretense, the inauthenticity, the masks come up.
Yeah.
And then you're living, trying to prove something not true. But then the question is, when you really get quiet with yourself, is it true? Maybe you failed, but in the failure is gold. In the failure is learning.
Yes.
In the failure is where you get to discover yourself and discover the truth that, that failed, or I failed. But that right there is the resurrection, the opportunity to repent, to let go of things, put the past, step in front of the past, and discover a new way out of failing. But if your ego and your pride can't fess up to that or own that, then what you're left with is pretending, going along and drifting further away from what's true.
Yeah.
And the life, it prevents you from having the life you want, truing up to the life that you could have.
What's so interesting about truth in this one sense is that people try to get comfortable with what they've become. And so in a state of getting comfortable and pushing out everything that makes you feel uncomfortable, the truth is the first thing that has to get pushed out. Mm-hmm. See, if you really want to get comfortable with who you've become, you don't want to see it. You were telling me this story, Baron, last vlog, about a guy you sat next to on a plane who said he was a Christian, but he said he didn't want challenge. He didn't want to learn. He didn't want to grow. He didn't want progress because somebody already did that for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he said Jesus already saved him from all his sins, so he doesn't believe in growth
He
or
doesn't believe in growth.
change or it's already been done.
So
He can
he
just
won't, he
cruise.
just wants to
Yeah,
get comfortable with an idea
yeah,
that it's already been done,
yeah,
which is not true. It's not true. There's
yeah.
constant life requires constant progress and change and for lack of a better word, evolution to evolve in the course of your own life and to evolve from an idea toward another idea. Now, I use archaeology as a perfect case in point. The out of Africa theory has just been changed.
What is that?
For 100 years, archaeologists and paleontologists, whatever, the people who study human behavior, archaeologists and so on, said that there was a land bridge that existed at one time and that people migrated from Africa to all the other places on Earth. So they've always, and I've heard it said my whole life, Africa was the cradle of life. Now they've changed that. All the scientists agree it wasn't Africa, it was maybe Asia. But my point is that if you want to get comfortable with an idea, that idea begins to stifle you. But let's just say, for example, you're not comfortable with that idea. Let's just say ideas can either be comforting or discomforting. I've never been comfortable with the idea that the earth, that human beings have only been here for 5 or 6 or 10,000 years. I've never been comfortable with the idea. You look back and you say, there has to be more than this. People just developed the last 10,000 years or whatever it is. I've never been comfortable with accepted isms. And I always question, well, is that true? Because that's the only measure of anything, whether or not it is true, in my opinion. Whether or
But
not,
to ask from a sincere,
yeah,
genuine, real place
right,
within yourself, from the seeking soul, is it true? Is it true?
That's it.
And how you're living your life. So being comfortable with who you've become it's interesting because then you're left with that. And so
That's
is
it.
who you've become lining up in true, or are you filled with anxiety and fear and
so it's what
all that?
Khalil Gibran said about the egg.
You just get
the
more.
Pain
You just
that you
get
feel
yeah.
is the breaking of the egg that holds you. Is that right? Is that the right quote?
Yeah, Khalil Gibran. Yeah, the breaking of the shell that encloses you.
Yes.
Yeah, is the access to what I'll say here, freedom. But the pain you feel, in the breaking of the shell.
Because the chicken cannot go on.
The pain of truth. Yeah.
Yeah, but the chick cannot go on to become a bigger chicken unless it escapes.
Can't learn how to fly. Can't learn how to fly.
But people want to build an egg around themselves, a protective egg.
Well, because it's comfortable, it's safe, right? It's their security. So we think, and that's part of the deception of our thinking. And whoever's gotten to our thinking or whatever forces, spiritual forces that have gotten to our thinking that says, don't step out of the known into because the truth represents the unknown. If you come back to some truth, then you connect to that intuition, higher intuition, which is going to take you into uncomfortable, scary places, the unknown. And so when you rely on the known, that comfort zone, as the saying goes, the question is not, will you survive if you step out of the comfort zone? The question really, the real question is, will I survive the comfort zone? Because within the comfort zone is a slow death. We're either expanding in life or we're contracting. Life is not static. It is not steady. Life is, as Thoreau said, the only thing that never stops changing is change. And are we changing, growing, expanding, or are we holding on to not change, and then we are in resistance to the changes of life, which are inevitable? And then we don't have the inner fortitude to deal with what's coming at us in life because we're clinging to some old idea of ourselves or some false idea or narrative in our heads that life is dangerous and I need to just stay safe, which is all built on a body of fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look,
and what feeds fear, which is resentment, that kind of anger that is also it's like chains around our soul. And most people haven't an access to freedom, which it's easily stepped over, is forgiveness.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Ego is actually what determines what we hear or miss. And we come into this world and we have an ego. Now, let's just talk about people who are born with health challenges, like a person who is born with Down syndrome. They don't have the same kind of an ego as a person who doesn't have the syndrome. And you see them, generally speaking, following around their parent, and God bless the people who take care of the children with the Down syndrome and other physical challenges. God bless them. But those people don't have the self-determination that the ego propels us toward whatever destination in life. And the ego determines what the truth is that we will accept or reject. The ego is what puts us in a position where we look for, what do you call it? The word is self-fulfilling prophecies, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Expectations comes to my mind as well.
Confirmation bias is what I'm looking for. We want to confirm to ourselves that what we either want or don't want, believe or don't believe, is our own idea, which is a very dangerous thing.
It blinds us.
It does.
It blinds us. And it also is, and it also has, its motive is to protect us.
Yeah.
And keep us, again, safe and in line with who we've become, not who we could be in life.
That's it.
Really good. So let's wrap up here. Any last thought?
Just be aware and question the source of where ideas and thoughts come from. Because the moment you start to question, where did that come from? Or the question is, why have I been thinking this way my whole life? What, is there something different that would change my trajectory? Is there a new idea that I've missed? That's all there is to it. That's the answer. But watch your ego, because like you just said, the ego is a self-perpetuating mechanism, and it is a very deceptive part of our being that tries to make us believe that whatever we believe is our own idea, and it just simply isn't. We don't have many original ideas, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, patenting something, there's only 7 original ideas. From my understanding. And then there's variations of that, billions of variations. But
yeah, I think what I'll say is get present. Your body keeps score. You're not your body. You have a body, but the body is also like a storage house, like a depot where life is stored. And when you get quiet and you get present to your body, that's a first access to getting to truth, the physical universe, your feet, your body. Get out of the head, start getting present to the physical universe around you, your body and what's within your body. Get present. And when you start getting really present, you get present to something greater, a greater presence. And in that greater presence, your outlook expands, and it gives you the ability to see yourself with new eyes, to see what's actually going on with you internally, what's going on with where you're coming from in life, what's motivating you, what's driving you, what's leading your life. And get quiet, get still, meditation, and get true. That's the access to disrupting that drift in life, where people have control of your mind or other forces have control of your mind. And it closes the door for others thinking to access your mind and start seeing and thinking for yourself from an inner knowing, an inner light, your conscience, God's voice. All right, my friends, be well. Thank you, David. So if you have questions that you would like us to respond to, send them to disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com, disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com. I know a lot of you have sent a lot of questions. I haven't had a chance to really get to your questions, but we will. And keep sending them in. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, leave comments. We love hearing from you. If you're listening on any platforms. Give us a 5-star review, will you? It helps us push this out and pay it forward. All right. Until next time, stay blessed and stay true. Keep disrupting the drift, and peace be with you. I'm Baron Baptiste, and we're out.